Hey guys, welcome to another video on homeowner repair, and in this video I'm going to show you how to vacuum out the back of your pellet stove and kind of what happens after a year or two, all the dust that accumulates back there. And as well, in this video we're going to also replace a gasket on the glass. So I'll show you what's involved with replacing the gasket that goes around the door that you open and close when you're trying to clean the stove out. Okay, so if you have a basic pellet stove like this, it shouldn't be too hard to take the sides off and to get inside of it and to start vacuuming it out. And what you're going to want to do is, I already started cleaning this and then I figured I'd do a video on it, but this pipe right here was really clogged with pellet stove dust. So I vacuumed it out the other day and then I decided to stop so I can show you guys what to look for once you open this thing up. I haven't opened it up in about a year or so, so when I open it up you'll see how much dust and stuff has accumulated in there. That should be cleaned every year. So once you have your pellet stove free from the pipe going out, definitely make sure it's unplugged. You don't want it plugged in while you're in there trying to vacuum stuff out because you could short something out. And actually you don't want to plug it back in until everything is all bolted back into place and you're done with the maintenance, and then you're ready to slide it back into place, connect it up. And then once everything's done, the connections, all that, then you can hook it, plug it back in. A couple of years ago, I was cleaning the stove out, and I noticed I missed a spot, so I removed one of the side panels where the control is. I forgot that I had the stove plugged in, and the piece of metal touched like the control board, arced it out, and shorted it out on me, so I had to replace the board. It was a couple $100. So there's no electricity in it, you don't have to worry about that. Sometimes it's just a simple oops, and even though you're careful, I was being careful and it still happened to me. So again, I can't stress enough, just make sure it's unplugged while you're vacuuming in there. So I'm going to start with removing the side panel here. And around the back, there's only like 3 sheet metal screws holding it in place. There's one up top, in the middle right here, and then on the bottom. So you can take those out pretty easily if you have a ratchet, or if you have an electric drill you can use that too. Okay, so let's start with removing those screws. Okay, now you can easily remove the side panel. So this should kind of come out, slip, and kind of peel it off. And you want to make sure that you disconnect the boards, stuff like that. There's a little wire here on mine, so let me disconnect this. Usually you can just wiggle it free pretty easily. Alright, so you can see how much dust is in there, and this is only after a couple of years. It's pretty gross. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to vacuum this out with, I've got a rigid shop vac here, and it has a special filter in it for dust and like fine particles. So let's vacuum this out real quick. So on this stove, there's another patch panel in the back too. So I'm going to take this cover off so we can vacuum in this as well. Open the whole thing up as much as possible. A lot of these are put together like little self-tapping screws, so they're not hard to get out. So basically, you just want to get in here and get all of this crud out of here that's hampering the performance of your stove. And the blower is right here, the fan. So we'll vacuum out the fins in there. Just be careful. And again, just use a shop vac or something and wipe anything off that can't get out with like a dry paper towel. You don't want to put anything wet in here, and it'll help out quite a bit. So I'm going to get this all vacuumed. So then come around the other side of your stove, remove those sheet metal screws too, pull this panel off, and kind of do the same thing. And this side's even worse, it's kind of ridiculous. So let's get all of this out of there. Alright, so this is looking a lot better than when I first started. So what you can also do is, if you have some hard to reach areas, you can use some compressed air, like that's made for like a computer server or something like that. Or if you have like an air compressor, you can gently blow it out. You don't want to go with anything with like too much force because you don't want to damage anything. But how we started off, this is crazy, a crazy amount of dust that was in here. So here's what it looks like now compared to when we first started. The dust is all out of everything in here, including the fan assembly inside. So I'm going to get this button back up, and I'm going to go over to the front door and we'll replace that gasket around the door. Oh hey, one more thing. If you're having a problem putting your panels back on around the stove, you might have a couple tabs like this sticking out, and there's a couple of notches in the panel. So what you might actually have to do is, there's a notch here, and there's an elongated hole. There's another one down here because they have two pins sticking out. You might actually have to put the front in first, where these notches are, and then slide the back towards the front, and then put your screws back. I'll show you how it's done. Alright. To line this stuff up. Tip the back like that. And line everything up, push it towards the front, and I'm snapped right into place, and now I can put my sheet metal screws on the back of this panel. Then I'm going to go around to the other one and that patch panel out back. Alright, so now that that's all done, let's replace the rope gasket on the inside of the door. So here's where that is. The stove is pretty old. I've never replaced the gasket. You should replace it every few years when it gets flattened and no longer creates a great seal. I picked this gasket up at Lowe's, and mine takes a 5/8 rope. The other option out there that I've seen that's probably pretty popular is a 1/2 inch, and it comes with like the adhesive and everything in it. So what I need to do first is to take this rope off and then get some of the old adhesive out of there. Okay, so just find a point on the rope. Remember to put something on the floor to protect the floor so you don't get any adhesive on it or any gross parts. I'm going to start right around my hinge, and I'll get a knife or something to cut this later on. So you should be able to just kind of work your way around the outer perimeter. And this one's pulling out pretty easy. Again, the stove's pretty old, so looks like the rope was tucked into a hole over here from the factory. Kind of worm your way around, and it doesn't take too much effort to pull it off. Alright, so you pull all that off, and the next thing we need to do is clean up all of the gasket, the old gasket around here, get all this orange off so it's down to bare metal. Alright, so I was trying a few tricks out to get this gasket cleaned off. The problem is that it's in the fire pot, so you can't use like a solvent to clean it off. So you're gonna want to use something like an old razor blade, well, a new razor blade, and maybe like a wire brush. So you can kind of scrape up like this, and this should easily remove the old gasket without a whole lot of effort. And then once you have the heavy stuff broken off, you can take a wire brush and go around it, and this will help clean up and remove that old gasket. It's going to take a little bit of elbow grease, but you want to make sure all the orange stuff is off, like this over here, and so that you can get a good seal. So right now I'm going to work on removing all of this, and you don't need to sit here and watch me, and we'll get back in a minute. Okay, so once all the adhesive from the gasket is removed, this is what the door should look like. You want to make sure all of it's off there. It's going to take you a little bit of time. It took me about an hour to scrape this all off, but it looks pretty good. So let's put the new adhesive on and the rope that seals the door to the pellet stove. Alright, so I don't have a channel for the stove, so you might on yours. I'm not sure if your door does, but mine doesn't. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take the gasket adhesive and run a bead of it. And it says like 1/8 of an inch for a bead. You want to go kind of thick in the corners. Kind of go all along the perimeter of your door. Right when you get to the corners, make a little bit thicker of a bead. kind of go up. Then you're going to set your rope into place. I want to put it on there, but you want to put it on so thick that it's dripping all over the place. Right. So then take your rope and work your way around it. Factory rope is like this. So tuck it into there. And kind of go along like this. Kind of set it into the corner. And kind of work your way around. Right, so I'm finding it easier that if you kind of work your gasket in place slowly and let it set up for a minute, kind of hold some pressure on it, it'll start to stick. So you want to kind of work your way around the door like this. And to the side, kind of let it set up a little bit. It's sticking pretty good now. So I kind of draped some of the gasket over the top, so it's a little bit easier to work with. So let's go around the other bend as well. Kind of run your bead along here. This is clear, it's not orange like the factory one was, but they all seem to be this way. You end up picking this one up at Lowe's today. So you just got to kind of take your time with this stuff. Kind of press it in and hold it. It'll kind of set up, kind of like if you're working on an automotive gasket, like a water pump or something. You need to let it get tacky sometimes a little bit. And then just keep working your way around. Slowly getting there. Setting into place for me. So once you have everything in place, on my door, I had to cut the rope end. There's a little hole. So you need to tuck the rest of the gasket into this hole right there. Just use like a screwdriver or something to kind of tuck it into place. Kind of push it on in like that. So on my instructions with the adhesive, it says to close the door once you have this all tacked on, and then let it sit with the door closed for 12 hours. And then read the instructions on your gasket. It'll probably say to light it on low, mine does, and let it heat up a little bit. And then I guess you make the flame a little bit hotter to kind of cure the adhesive. So now we'll shut this. And we're going to wait 12 hours, and that should hold the gasket in place. It'll let it set up. And now the gasket is a nice tight seal. So it's basically all you need to do. I hope you liked the video, and if you have any comments, leave a comment on the channel, and we'll right back to you.